Well, welcome to week 2 of the Duluth Art Institute Professional Development Series. This is a 6-week program where we will be covering a variety of subjects helping you advance your creative journey. And I'm coming at you live from the Lincoln Park Building in Duluth, Minnesota. And today we welcome Zip Alegria to share his experiences in art and animation. The Duluth Art Institute Professional Development Series is made possible by a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. So thank you to our listeners for joining us tonight and for listening to this in the future. And we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to do a quick artist bio for Zip, and then we'll get started. Zip Alegria is a seasoned artist known for his distinctive style, which brings a dynamic edge to the card game industry. Currently, Zip contributes his creative expertise to Vanquishers TCG and Shardbugs TCG, crafting vivid worlds and memorable characters. With a career spanning indie and AAA projects, his talents have taken him through diverse roles, including working for Lucas Arts as an asset artist and a storyboard artist for live action and animated pilots. Zip's comic artistry shines in the books he's illustrated for the card games he collaborates on, along with his own project, CrimsonBlade. From concept art to animation, Zip's unique style infuses every project with a colorful and immersive aesthetic. Welcome, Zip. It's great to have you. How you doing?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's doing pretty good. It's a wonderful evening.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I know you've your journey has taken you all across the country. So certainly we want to just get started and have you take us along on your journey. So we're going to start off just with an intro to your work and the industry you work in. Can you tell me a little bit about the Shardbugs TCG and some of those projects you're working on?
Yes. Currently I'm the senior and lead artist for Shardbugs TCG. I started off as the card artist, and now I'm doing the comic book and the world building for that. Um, and also working on another card game called Vanquishers TCG. I both as a card artist and the comic book art, and as well as my own projects as CrimsonBlade, which is my own book, graphic novel, and a game that I'm working on the side in conjunction to that.
Cool, cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your LucasArts experience? As a Star Wars fan myself, I thought that was the coolest thing ever when you said that you had done some work for LucasArts. That's a pretty nice feather to have in your cap. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it started off when I was in school. My concept art teacher told me I should apply for a internship, and I did. And the internship only lasted about a week or two, and then I got hired.
Nice.
So then I started working as an asset artist, especially essentially just doing the same stuff I was doing as an intern. I didn't get to work in the building. I did get a tour of the building, but I worked from home. Every day was just a list of artwork that I had to do, and it was a lot of work. I did a lot of artwork, but it was a lot of small things. Again, it was just asset build artwork and world building in the smallest things. Like got to make it hundreds of cups that a stormtrooper or some random Star Trek character would be drinking out of,
For
and
the
I got to
mess hall.
yeah, or I got to come up with pillars or lightsabers or whatever. I don't know what my artwork was used for in which games. I think Force Unleashed one is has some of my artwork in it, but I really can't tell you what they use from me because I probably did thousands of uh, sketches and designs.
So your artwork is scattered across the galaxy, huh?
Yes.
All right. So I know that you've talked about some projects you've done where you were actually part of some animated and live action pitches to Adult Swim. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yes. So I started working with Slap Happy Pictures. It was a indie a production group, and I ended up becoming a part of that group. And we worked on a TV show pilot called A Space Adventure. It was a Star Wars, Star Trek, old classic Star Trek parody for Adult Swim, and we had pitched it to them and to Spike TV at the time, and we got the whole first episode done. I started off as simply just the co-writer and concept artist, but I ended up putting on many hats in that thing. I ended up directing, even storyboarding, directing. But my favorite part and the part that I felt like I did the best work in was concept art, the building of the characters, the design of the spaceship, the interior of the spaceship, which we actually built the set as well. I built it. I've never worked with any wood, and I ended up building a set, a bridge, if you would. And I worked on that, and I also worked on Skelly Bones for El Rey Network, and it was an animated show about a bounty hunter in purgatory. I did all the concept designs for the pitch book, the character designs, the city design of purgatory, and then did all the storyboarding for the proof of concept that we had for that.
Great, great. Well, you kind of went through the highlights of your career. We'll swing back and kind of plug those experiences in as we go here. But I wanted to jump on it right into kind of the practical and some of the work that you actually had to do to get into those spaces. So I just wanted to start by talking about like building a portfolio. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about how you built a portfolio and how you'd recommend building a portfolio that gets you noticed?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was given a lot of advice from a bunch of different instructors and professionals in the industry, but I ended up taking everybody's input. And one of the common things from everyone was always to put variety. If you want to become a character designer, that's great. Put a lot of that in there, but also put in other stuff that you are capable of doing, because you want to get into the industry in any capacity. Like I really wanted to do character design, but I ended up doing a lot of environmental design, uh, 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 cultural design. You got to so when you're building your portfolio, put different things. You put your character designs, your buildings, your vehicles, your weapons, stuff like that. But definitely put your best foot forward with that. And
Like you don't want to
uh,
put in like stuff that you don't want to do or that you don't think that it's a strong suit of yours. Like you're saying like just do everything that you can that you know you could actually accomplish and execute for a company.
absolutely, yeah. You explained it much better than I did there.
I struggle with similar things.
Yeah, I because my first gigs that I worked on, I didn't do any of the stuff that I've ever actually done. I never did turnarounds for buildings, and I had to design these outposts for some game called Fistful of Magic. It was one of my first indie projects that I worked on, and that wasn't my strong suit. I didn't know how to do, so I had to figure out how to do that fast. Luckily, my I was able to still push my skills to that point to actually get something done. And as you keep doing all these projects and you work on, even personal projects, like I cannot stress how much, even personal projects are important to yourself. If you don't have any work out there, create your own personal project and put that in your portfolio. That's exactly what I did. A lot of my stuff in my portfolio was from my book called CrimsonBlade. And then once I started getting work in the field, I started putting that into my portfolio little by little. But I'll be honest, right now, still my portfolio is a lot of my own personal project stuff rather than my work stuff, because I can just kind of point them to my work stuff and I'd be like, look at this other stuff that's really cool. It's my project, my world. Um, and once you start doing that, once you get like all these different, uh, you level up your skills, you pretty much create like a Rolodex in your head. You know, you're like, all right, guns. All right, I don't know, Western guns. All right, I can do Western guns. And that's another thing too. Don't just stick to one genre. Do a variety of genres. And the best way to kind of do that is to challenge yourself. And the way to challenge yourself is you can do it with friends. One of the things that we used to do was we would all kind of put genres and character types, art types, write them down, put them on the hat, and then we'd pick two or three, and it'd be like, cyborg, cowboy, a ninja, two, three weird things. So create a cowboy, a robot ninja, or whatever it was, uh, and that's gonna push you artistically and mentally to take from all these different aspects and build your own personal portfolio.
Yeah, if you want to get into the industry that you're working in, it sounds like you have to be okay with doing some of those smaller, less noticeable pieces of art. And that sounds to me like that you might have to be prepared for some repetition and kind of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's can I tell a quick little story about of LucasArts? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
go ahead, please do.
there's one particular instance that I think it was more a test than anything else, but they told me for the first week or for the first couple of days that I was working on LucasArts, they told me to draw lightsabers. And I was like, how many? It's like, just send me all the lightsabers you can. And at first I just did like 12 and I worked really hard on these and I sent to them. They're like, okay, we want a lot more. And they're like, these are really nicely polished, but we need concepts. So I ended up doing like almost 100 different lightsabers. And the hardest thing to kind of get used to is letting go of your artwork, or because like you a lot of times, us as artists will sketch something, you're like, this is amazing, this is the best drawing. But if you do that when you're kind of concept art, you're gonna have to let that go because most likely that won't be picked.
Yeah.
But it's for you at the so you know, and for me, that's how I work. I Every drawing is for me, and then they get to keep it a little bit. Yeah, sure, but everything is always for me. Uh, uh,
You get to keep the ones you didn't want.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I think this looks pretty cool, even if they don't use it. You got to be willing to let that go. And I think for me that was the hardest part. But yeah, like you're drawing constantly. You're putting out so much, and even if like even one of the best advice I got, even if the drawings are, I'm trying not to curse, bad, even though if the drawings are not are bad, you can just put them down because those bad drawings are uh kind of how can I put this? You're getting the bad stuff out of the way, and then you're digging for the gems and for the diamonds, and you'll find it. But you're going to be going through a lot of crap.
Well, for most artists, there's always like these peaks and valleys where you're putting out art that you really enjoy and that you really like and are happy with, and then suddenly you can't seem to draw anything you like, and you just have to fight through that sometimes and get back to that point where everything is looking good again. So you talked about working with Lucas Arts. Can you tell me about how you found success working through like smaller companies and like indie projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people that I worked with, even from the very beginning, was always a recommendation. And most of my work has been through word of mouth from other artists, from not just artists, but also other creators, other employers. Um, and my first gig I got because I tutored somebody at school, and then they told somebody, and they told somebody else, and I remember if that's sort of how it happened. It was like, 3 degrees of separation, and found somebody through there. Um, and that's like the best advice I can give is if you're working with somebody, put your best foot forward, you know, because the world, I think I spoke to you about this, the world, the artistic world, the creatives world, like right now is smaller than you think. A lot of people know each other, even if it's across the country and everything. They kind of like it's a small world. And so you being a person who people like to work with, putting your best foot forward, working well with others will get you more work than, from in my experience, than social media. And through the social media, how I've gotten work has been through a DeviantArt. Even though that's like long been dead, I still get notes on there, and I'll go check and I'll be like, "Hey, I want working on this game. How much?" I'll respond to them and tell them to send me to my email now. But majority is through word of mouth, less through my social media presence, which I have, everywhere. Every single social media I have, Zip Draw, you can find me at any of those places. Um, but yeah, a lot of it is luck. But the thing is about luck is that your luck grows the more amount of work that you put out there.
Mhm.
You have more of a chance to get another gig, another job. and I personally go for indie projects more so than AAA. Um, just like indie projects just seem to have a little bit more passion in my experience, and I like what I create with them more so than other bigger companies.
All right. Well,
I hope I
that's
answered. I hope that made sense.
makes sense. I mean, you probably don't have to be quite as careful if it's an indie project, and you don't have to be as mindful as if you like when you were working with Star Wars. You know, if it's shard bugs, maybe you actually have a little creative wiggle room as compared to like a stormtrooper. It's like how much can you really do different with a stormtrooper than you
Oh,
can like a character.
absolutely. Like I'm very fortunate to be working with not just Redbugs, but everybody I've been working with. I get a lot of free reign to create, and not just characters, your buildings, you're coming up with the cultures for each type of character. And it seems like a lot of work, and it is too, but it's fun, and that's the thing. And that's another thing too. Have fun. If you're not having fun with your work, then I don't know. I don't know what to
Yeah,
say.
you're not having fun, you're not going to do it. And I can tell like the amount of work that you put out, you're definitely having a good time when you're making it for the most part. It's work, you know, it can be work sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I know you touch base on like word of mouth and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you connect and communicate and ultimately make your clients happy?
Oh, yeah. So with pretty much like all clients, I kind of approach it like I did with even when I was working AAA industry is, they ask you for something, give them a variety, give them a lot of choices to work with. And that goes again with the whole letting go of artwork. Um, and I had gotten told a few times, I don't 100% agree with this sentiment, but a lot of concept artists will say that concept art is not art. It is just design. Well, I disagree with that because I have art books based off of concept art. I would love to have posters of concept art, but that's a somewhat healthy way to look at it because you're giving them designs. You're pumping out all these thoughts, ideas, not finished products.
Mhm.
And then once they like something, once they like what when I work with my clients, and I go like, which ones do you like from all these sketches and everything? They're usually surprised, which is funny. Um, because they're like, wow, this is a lot. You gave me a lot here. And I'm like, oh, I like this guy, but if you can mix this with this and this with that, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I'll start drawing that one, and they'll love it. That's keeping that rapport with my clients is what I hear the most positive from other people who contact me and like, oh, Lewis talked to me. He said he loved like he showed me your work and he showed me all the stuff and that you worked really well. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. What do you need? What is your vision? I want to build your world. And working that way with these folks, and sometimes I kind of go a little bit above and beyond. But that's just my own personality. I like to like just overachieve when it comes to drawing something. Um, but having that good rapport, not having a bad attitude, I mean, I wouldn't hire anybody that I worked with before or recommend somebody who was just a jerk. And luckily I'm a nice jerk.
Well, you know,
uh,
clients, they also don't always like everything you do, so you have to learn how to sometimes basically hear like, I don't like that, do it again.
yeah, and a lot of times too, if I do something that like if I draw something and they'll give me what all the not requirements, but the
Spec?
outline of what they want. They'll send me all the information. Sometimes I'll be like, I can change it and I'll draw something a little bit different. I'll offer that as a alternative design and also give them a reason as to why I like this particular design. If I like something, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's like so here are all the ones I like number four, and for this and this reasons. But it's up to you, it's whatever. But I'm just letting you know four is coolest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And sometimes they'll take you up on it, sometimes they won't. But if you have a good reason as to why you're doing it, they'll be like, oh wow, that's a better idea than what I had. And I'm like, I know.
Kind of doing You're kind of doing a little bit of that old like Mad Men stuff in the boardroom of being like, you should go with this one right here. This is the better one.
Yeah,
This is gonna sell you, you know, sell your story better. So you
yeah.
do a little bit of pitching too.
Yeah. And I've been doing this for about 15, 16, no, probably more than years than that, probably 18 years. Holy crap. I've been doing this for about 18 years. And it's it was one of the first things that I had to learn to navigate, which was communication. That's like the biggest thing. You can stay in communication. If you're having a hard time with something and you're trying to get something out, communicate that. Let them know. And that was a good thing too. Like not all the projects I've worked on, I feel like were my 100% best. Sometimes some of the stuff I'm like, man, that looks really bad. My clients were happy, but they also liked that I was always vocal with them about where I was, in terms of mentally or creatively. Um, but a lot of times when what we think is our worst is still really good to most people. So don't be too
Thank
hard on yourself.
goodness. Thank goodness for that. For sure. Well, before I jump into the tools of the trade and a little bit more on your building your client base, I know that you traveled all over the country in your journey. Can you just give me a list of the places you've been in, and then maybe your favorite one, other than Minnesota, of course.
So San Antonio, Texas is where I'm from, and that's where a lot of the work I started off. But then I went to California, worked in I worked for LucasArts over there at San Francisco, California, and then Colorado. I've done some work for people in Canada. I'm trying to remember the name of the studio, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. I was trying to stall there. But then here in Minnesota as well. I have also even done some work in France for Ubisoft. I didn't realize I was working for Ubisoft because it was named something else when I got my checks.
Ah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and then I found out it was Ubisoft, and I don't know what game it was. It was like a fantasy-esque type of game. I've
Okay.
never. But anyways,
What kind of schooling did you have?
I went to the Art Institute in San Francisco. I don't recommend that school, but I went there for animation and media arts. Oh, media arts and animation. Sorry. And originally I was trying to go for film. I wanted to be a director because I am also I like film. I like to direct as well, which is what comic books are, and sequential storytelling, storyboarding. It is um I lost my train of thought there.
I got a comment that said, "Oh no, not the institutes."
Yeah, and this one's a good one, but
Yeah, there's
the
a
other one,
defunct, similarly named operation that was
yeah.
not operating in good faith.
Yeah. But I forgot where I lost where I was going.
Well, we were talking about like with your schooling there and then getting into film
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. Which place I like the most, and I will have to say, well, since we're here, I like Minnesota the most. No, but I really like San Francisco. I mean, mainly because of the proximity I was with a bunch of other artists. I was a lot of great, talented people that I'm still friends with to this day over there. Um, and it was always busy. It was always bustling. That's why I liked it over there. Being with someone who has ADHD, constantly just doing something. Right now, at any given time, I'm working on maybe 5, 6 projects at the same time.
ooh,
And that's just me though. That's like
yeah.
if I try to stay on one, that's another. I think that's I'll wait for that until later on to
Yeah,
give
I
that
went
advice.
oof because I'm working on like two right now, and I'm like, oof, that number just it just hit me.
Yeah,
So,
it's a little crazy.
yep. So you went to school. What advice would you give for someone, not necessarily what school to go to or if they should go to college or not, but like what would you
Oh,
recommend how would you recommend someone approach their education?
well, I can give you the advice a teacher gave me.
Oh, for sure.
So one of my instructors, Trey Gallagher, he was the concept art teacher. He pulled me aside and he told me to withdraw from school because I was really good and it was a scam in that school. But he also told me, if you're like, he says like, I see what you want to learn how to draw and everything. He says like, honestly, if you want to do life drawing, you want to do any of that stuff, go to a community college for that. Go to anything. But also, what's so great about nowadays and compared to when I was younger, you have an infinite amount of resources to go and free to learn. I can tell you that a lot of the stuff that I learned now, how to use Blender, Photoshop, Clip Studio, everything. I didn't learn any of that from school. I learned all of that from YouTube and TikTok, and other artists that you see live streaming. Like now you can watch Jim Lee draw artwork, from scratch live, and you can see like, oh, he does this weird thing with with the heads and how he does the hand. He just makes a weird shape. I never knew that. Little things like that. Take all of that and put it in, into, like I said earlier, your Rolodex of information. You're gonna keep all of that. You're gonna feed off of everything that you learn. And if you're having a hard time, you want to find something, YouTube, Google, look for it online because you can find it, and people are willing to teach for free and give out this information for free. That's amazing. Even live streams, like I live stream all the time, and some people will ask me questions, and I'll answer as best I can, or they can just see what I'm doing. And I find it that I don't think school is necessary, but what's the good thing about schooling, and this is the biggest thing that I learned from school, was finding like-minded individuals, networking. And I think that's the biggest thing, is networking. But you don't necessarily need school for that. I mean, I thought I did. And I don't regret it at all. I'll tell you the truth. As I loved everything that I got to accomplish, all the ups and downs, the people I met, everything that I've learned. Because even from the other folks, other artists, I learned so much. And my advice is to, if you want to learn how to draw, stay hungry. Learn as much as you can, especially if you're not an adult yet. If you're still like in high school and you're barely getting out, right now is the time. Experiment, figure out what it is that you want to learn, because not only that, you'll learn the terminologies. You have the time to expand. Like right now, I'm just getting into sculpting, and I'm not horrible at it, but I feel like if I would have started like earlier and like played with it more, I could be ahead of my game. So yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I want to say, is stay hungry, continue to learn. Ask questions too. If you have like if you artists out there, we love attention. Yeah, like that's it. Like we love attention.
Yeah, it's a performative craft.
I think to be an artist, you got to have a bit of an ego. Like there's no way around that, because you're creating something. You want people like, look what I created.
Yeah, pay attention to me.
Yeah. So asking an artist a question, asking, just getting advice from most people, they'll be willing to get it. And if not, there's plenty of artists out there. You can ask somebody. Somebody will help you out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I love about, community having programming for, like open studios and stuff, because going back to what you said about networking, I truly believe that networking is like right up there. When they always taught that old adage about it's not what you know, it's who you know. I don't agree with all that, but it is important who you know, and you only get to know people through networking. So that's a huge, huge part of it for sure.
Yeah,
so I wanted to
it's a community. Yeah.
Yeah, community is everything. Absolutely. I wanted to spend the home stretch here before we go to your favorite career highlight. I'll give you some time to think about that. But I wanted to talk about like tools of the trade. Can you tell us like your go-to programs that you use?
Oh, my go-to programs. So for sketching, if I'm just going to be sketching, my favorite program of all is Sketchbook Pro. But on my daily usage, for work, I use Clip Studio Paint and Blender, for animation, for 3D, like 2D animation, as on Blender, Grease Pencil. And I mean, I know all the other programs too, like Photoshop, but I'm an artist, so I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So I stick to the open source stuff, or the stuff that's not ridiculously stupid expensive. So with that being said, I don't have any love for Adobe at all. I know how to use it, but that was my first program. But Clip Studio, Blender. There's tons of other programs out there that are also free that you can find, but those are my three: Sketchbook Pro, Clip Studio, and Blender.
Awesome. So what can you tell us about like what you're like, say you have a project due in a week and you have to get to work, like, can you tell us like what a day looks like for you when you need to get a project done?
So if I need to get a project done, for what I find is that I tend to, the closer it gets to it, I tend to work a lot more and sleep less. But that's not because like I'm nervous. It's just I get more excited as it goes on, and I don't like sleeping. It's so much time wasted. I don't know. But
Waste.
but on a day for me, I start off sketching, just whatever. Like my biggest, I guess, advice on that part is if you're having trouble with a piece of a project or whatever, take a step away, draw anything, just draw. Get refill that cup of creativity so that you can then drink it while you're working on the work that you need to finish. So I usually start off my day with some sketching gestural poses, whatever you like. Me, I like drawing. I like drawing naked people. I like drawing poses and people, anatomy. And so that's what I spend like my morning or my afternoons. I'm a night person. I spend my afternoons that way. I wake up, start sketching either on my sketchbook, on my tablet, on my phone. I've started to now just draw straight on my phone in the mornings instead of looking at social media or whatever, because that helps.
Wow.
Uh, so just sketching, like so wake up, sketch. Doesn't matter if it's bad or good, or just sketch at least for 30 minutes,
Oh man. Yeah.
and charge your batteries that way. Then I start working on whatever I need to work on. Um, and I'll send my client, the updates as it's going. Sometimes I'll stream it. If it's work that needs to be done like real fast, I don't stream only because I can't focus on talking to people and working. But yeah, I just don't stick to one thing. If you're having a hard time with your project, take a break from it. That doesn't mean like take months away. I'm taking like take a day or two, step away, draw whatever else. Like this weekend, I had to finish a page. I didn't get to finish the page. I told my client, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to finish this weekend." But I did ended up, doing something else. I made a sculpture of one of my characters and something I'd never done before. So I just kind of and now today today I woke up and I was just like I started working on that page right away. And I finished a good chunk of it because I got inspired after I worked on my own little whatever.
Yeah, the having some of those more portable drawing tools. I'm talking to a comic artist who was a professional like 30 years ago, and he's like, I need a drafting board to set these perspective lines, and I'm just sitting over here being like, I really need to introduce you to some of these newer technologies because, like you said, you can get out of bed and sketch on your phone. For me, like last night, I inked an entire figure just because I just like huddled up with my iPad in bed, and I was like, and I got on a roll. So it's kind of nice to have that stuff. You can kind of do some creativity like here and there in the car or waiting for for an appointment in the waiting room. But on the flip side, you also have to deal with distractions. Can you tell us a little bit about how you handle distractions and stay focused?
Oh man. Um, right now it's a little hard. But I normally try to stay away from watching movies. For example, right now I have Steam uninstalled because I play some games sometimes and I know that I'll reinstall it later if I need to if I want to. But trying to limit your distractions while you're working. And usually I'll have either a show that I watched already, I know from heart, like Bob's Burgers or Farscape or something. I'll have that in the background and it's just a noise while I'm working. And usually I have that on and then I have my headset on with no music or any sound. So there's muffled sounds behind me and that's all I need. Um but that doesn't mean that I don't take breaks and like watch something every so often. Like I said, you need to take a step away. But it's like any kind of job. You're not gonna watch movies when you're at work, whatever it is you're doing. Say you're a cashier or something. You're not gonna be watching movies as you're giving change back. So limit your distractions around you. Music is great. Put something on that you like. Personally, I like to put music that doesn't have any lyrics. I just like sounds, and then I'll sing that. And what I mean by that is I'll sing the sound, the instrument sounds, like womp 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 womp. If I'm listening to dubstep, uh, but limiting your distractions. And here's the thing too: if you're having a hard time working, lean into distractions, but artistic extractions. Distractions, not extractions. Lean into those artistic distractions by you're like if you're feeling like drawing, I don't know, a guy with a staff and you're drawing something else, just stop, draw that guy with the staff, get that out of your system, so that you can be like, yeah, that looks cool. All right, back to work. And again, that comes with that whole letting go of your sketch too, because a lot of the stuff that I draw, I don't post anywhere. I don't save it. I just draw it and then delete and get to work.
Yeah, it's more so like the act of drawing as opposed to like what you actually created.
Yeah. And also one of the hardest things too is like if you're not feeling motivated, um, motivation is not something that you can grab and hold on to. It is always going to be eluding you. You gotta, if it's there, you know, ride that motivation wave. But it's discipline in the end that comes through it. And I'm still struggling with it. Like I'm not at all like there's times when I'd be having to do something that I just been messing around drawing other things that I shouldn't be doing. But in the end, you kind of need those again too. Like I said before,
Mhm.
you still need to keep yourself sane.
Absolutely.
um, but yeah, as soon as you start, if you're working on something, just start drawing on it. Like if you have something that you turn in, sit down, draw it. Just like I explained with concept art. If you're drawing it, it's gonna look bad. You're not feeling it. Let the bad drawings out. Like get them out of the way, because then you're gonna be going. Like it all starts with a line. So start with
Perfect.
that line and continue, and you're gonna get it.
All right. So we're gonna close things off before we do Q&A with just telling us like a career highlight, something
Oh,
where
okay.
you were just like your favorite moment that I mean it can be you might have a couple, but like pick one out where you just really felt on top of the world, felt accomplished, grateful, all those things. Can you tell us about like a big highlight of your career?
Okay, yeah. I think my favorite piece, and it spoke a lot about space adventure. It was a live action show, TV pilot. On that one, I started off, like I said, just as a concept artist, but I ended up having to fill all these different shoes. And from my experience, it wasn't as much of a daunting task. And there was a the best thing was after I drew everything, I did design the set and everything, and we finished building the set, and I actually stood back and looked at it and saw the characters I drew in real life standing before me. These consoles with all the blinking lights and everything that I drew and animated that turned around there in front of me. That was the coolest thing. I mean, even though that project didn't actually succeed in the end, out of everything that I've worked on, I had I'm the most proud of that particular project because of all the different obstacles that we came across, and I overcame them, and the work at the end, the final result looks awesome to me. Like I am very proud of the work we did on that. Unfortunately, we didn't get picked up, but that doesn't take away from the experience I had on there and the work I did there. I I don't know how to explain it. Why when you see a character from your paper in front of you in real life, that's just the coolest thing, and
I,
that
I
was my favorite.
I can only imagine. That's awesome. Well, we're going to jump into Q&A, but I'm just going to kind of bid adieu to the audience who will be watching this in the future, just with my little blurb on just what to look forward to and kind of what we have going on here at the Duluth Art Institute. So this has been the Duluth Art Institute Professional Development Series. This program is made possible by a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. Join us next week where we are going to be talking about tattoos and the tattoo industry with Mark McConnell from Stronghold Tattoo. Thank you for watching. Have a great week.